Alright, sorry about that. I realized that I have kept my audience waiting long enough, but yes, hello everybody, it is a Dark Conservatarian, and a little bit off air right there. Well, not technically off air, but whatever. A little bit of time right there when I was playing the music. Reckless Trucker, he had joined on the call very briefly, and then he had to leave because I guess his internet is not working out very well with him, so he's probably going to end up jumping in and out of this call. But yes. What's up, everybody? I have a bit of a plate full for you as far as content on this episode of Strike Force News goes for you. Alright, so first I'm going to be reviewing this article right here that West Savage, the Derpy Redneck, had recommended to me, had linked to me, or maybe it was Techno. Actually, I think it was Techno that I think about it. Then going to be responding to the Progressive Voice very quickly, a video that I've been looking for a long time to be responding to. And then the main meat of the subject, or of the stream, going to be talking about Andrew Cuomo and the recent sexual harassment allegations that came out about him. Just going to be like giving our opinions, that is if Reckless Trucker joins back on, or in the worst case scenario, my opinion about the whole thing and why, and whether or not I think that it is worth believing or not. But anyway, to start off matters, is hello Trainer McCurry in the live chat. By the way, is ERCOT a government agency? Answers to 5 questions about the group that operates Texas's power grid. So one of the big questions that I've been posing throughout the time of the winter blizzard, of when that Texas's power got blackout because of it and whatnot, I got like posing the question of whether or not it is publicly or privately owned, or ran rather, the grid and whatnot, because I heard that Texas was trying to take a little bit more of a free market approach to things, but the provision of power to each house, was that privately or publicly ran, was my question. Technically, the article says that ERCOT, that being the government agency that runs Texas's power grid, is technically not government owned or ran, but then again, it is heavily regulated, like more regulated than a whole lot of other industries anyways here in America, and it might as well, you almost might as well say it is government ran. Technically, I can't say definitely that it's not technically owned by the government, but it seems to be heavily influenced and ran by the government. Like there are these 3 officials on this board or whatever that get appointed by the governor of Texas to run the organization right here, ERCOT, that is. So yeah, that answers the question, long and short of it, the question that I have been posing throughout the whole Texas blackouts issue. And the answer to that is kind of, but not fully. So, to get on to something a little bit more amusing than talking about power grids, about old subjects that we have already been trying to tackle for the last few weeks. So, this is actually an older video back from 2017 released by the Progressive Voice, where that he goes trying his hand in trying to debunk Ben Shapiro. Now, I had watched this video when it first came out. I even like pointed out as to how that I say that it's bullshit to be claiming and to be saying that Ben Shapiro was strawmanning Cenk Uygur at this point. You can make a point that he was strawmanning on that whole abortion clip that Progressive Voice goes responding to him on, Ben Shapiro on. But ultimately, in this clip, no, why? I mean, he's just posing a question to Cenk Uygur about the whole issue. But there is that big issue. That's the one most frustrating thing about this video right here. And there's other stuff to respond to it as well on top of that, but let's get right down to it, I guess. No time like the present, especially since Lucas Trucker isn't able to get his shit together so far.
Ben Shapiro and Cenk Uygur had a debate at Politicon, and I thought I'd deconstruct a little bit. You're going to be seeing a clip here about taxes. Check it out.
You said the economy grew faster when the top marginal tax rate was 91%. So I'm asking you, why shouldn't the top tax rate or all tax rates be 91%? You seem to be identifying a higher rate of growth with higher taxation. So I'm asking you.
very quickly, I just checked the DM group in Discord. Apparently, Reckless Trucker, he isn't able to join us at all. Apparently, he had prior engagements that he was supposed to be doing right now anyway. So, no Reckless Trucker for today, folks. Let's rewind the clip here.
About taxes, check it out.
You said the economy grew faster when the top marginal tax rate was 91%. So I'm asking you, why shouldn't the top tax rate or all tax rates be 91%? You seem to be identifying a higher rate of growth with higher taxation. So I'm asking you, on principle, you keep talking about the glories of a mixed economy. So now tell me about the glories of capital. I've heard about the glories of high tax rates. I've heard about the glories of government-provided health care. Now tell me some of the glories of actual capitalism, which is the basis for all the things you're talking. Tell me why it's good.
Okay, so Ben Shapiro here, he's blustered because he has the fact in front of him, like, holy shit, during World War II, the top marginal tax rate was at 91%, and the economy...
Well, no shit, and I'm pretty sure that he knew of that beforehand. And it's not the fact that he is blustered at. It's not even the fact that was presented by Cenk of what Ben Shapiro was having an issue with. It's how Cenk Uygur is using that fact in his argument that Ben Shapiro is having an issue with. Cenk Uygur, from what my recollection of this debate, I probably should have re-listened to the entire debate before getting into this. But nonetheless, what I definitely recall of that debate was that Cenk Uygur was praising the 50s and 60s and the fact that we had a higher tax rate back then. Income tax rate, that is, on the top, the top margins anyways. And yet Ben Shapiro goes trying to respond to that principle, that argument presented by Cenk Uygur. Why not have it higher then, if it's so damn good? I mean, what's so wrong about that? It just seems that it doesn't seem that Ben Shapiro is the one that is getting blustered. Honestly, it seems like Cenk Uygur is just unable to tackle the tough question, in my opinion, anyways. And by extension, as you all will probably see, Sahil Habibi here seems a little bit unable to answer the question. Now, he goes answering the question somewhat, but not fully to the extent that Ben Shapiro is trying to pose here. But anyway, let's get on with it. We'll tackle that as we come to it.
Boomed like never seen before in history. What am I going to do? So I'm going to create a straw man. This is the Ben Shapiro.
What straw man? No, from what I recall, it was a steel man of what Ben Shapiro was saying there. That Cenk Uygur was praising the high tax rates that we were having back then. And asking a question of what would your preferred income tax rate be on the top 1%, yada yada. A question is not a straw man, Sahil. Plain and simple. You go asking people what is your position in order to avoid a straw man. That's not how straw manning works. Asking people questions on what their position is, that's not how straw manning works. Now, if you go asking the question, why do you hold this position? It's the you hold this position part that could potentially be a straw man within that question. But he did not ask why. He asked where or what do you want it to be at. Ben Shapiro did.
Tactic that we saw here was creating a straw man. He all of a sudden goes to, why shouldn't we have the marginal tax rate at 91% now? Something Cenk has not advocated for.
Not everybody is going to know that at the moment because Cenk Uygur is not giving a straight answer to the fucking question. I mean, yeah, sure, we can grant the benefit of the doubt that Cenk never advocated for a 90% income tax rate, but Ben Shapiro is not saying that Cenk advocated for that. Ben is asking if Cenk advocates for that. or if not, then why should it not be? I mean, what the fuck, dude? Asking a question, again, plain and simple, not a straw man. Get your head out of your ass, Sahil.
And also says, it just throws in there, he's like, why not make all tax rates 91%? You keep identifying high tax rates with high growth because you're stating fact and I'm just a theory guy. Now.
Okay, so it almost seems like that Sahil kind of inadvertently admits that Ben Shapiro is steel manning that part of Cenk's argument, and that you go saying that there was all this growth that happened either in spite or because of the higher taxes. So why not make it higher? I mean, yeah, just pointing that out.
Now, here's what the truth is, okay? And Cenk will go on to talk about recirculation with the crowd going after him. So the economy boomed then during World War II with those tax rates. Now, this is always a response because people seem to say that, higher tax rates or high tax rates in general are not good for the economy, but the only empirical data that we have is asserting the exact opposite of what Ben Shapiro says.
Actually, no, not really. It's not that simple, Progressive Voice. I have like 2 pieces of literature actually pulled up here and linked down in the description box below. I haven't had time to like fully read this article right here, but I did this article right here. And if I may scroll down to the one paragraph where it goes referencing this. Hold on, let me just have him repeat his argument again.
In general are not good for the economy, but the only empirical data that we have is asserting the exact opposite of what Ben Shapiro says.
Except it's not that simple. I mean, for one, as far as I know at least, there was not as many types of taxes back then. I mean, yes, the raw tax rate of income tax on the richest people, that in of itself was higher back then, but did we have as many types of taxes back then? I don't think we did, and all the other insignificant taxes, like different kinds of sin taxes, were either super low or almost non-existent. A whole bunch of EPA regulations and the taxes that came along with them. EPA wasn't even existing before Nixon. But anyway, the 2 paragraphs right here. And there's another point to be tackling here. I mean, even if the statistics show to not really be fully in Ben Shapiro's favor, there's still like the principle as in regards of taxing people. Shouldn't people be allowed to keep as much of their money as possible? Rich person and middle class and lower class people. I mean, what about that, Progressive Voice? I mean, particularly middle class people. I mean, reading this little snippet of the article. Now I pre-read this. Y'all can like read it yourself in full if you want to after this live stream or whatever. But anyway, the World War II tax measures had another effect. The tax base expansion actually shifted the locus of the federal income tax burden away from the wealthiest owners and onto middle-income Americans. Congress retained many of these wartime tax measures after the conclusion of hostilities in 1945 and converted them into a permanent peacetime tax system, with almost all income earners now eligible to pay taxes. The burden of that system also shifted sharply toward the middle class and remained there until Reagan tax cuts. Since the early 1980s, the income tax burden has shifted back towards the wealthiest filers, even though top statutory rates have been reduced. So, yeah, and this is by U.S. News, by the way, folks. It's not like a full-on right-wing hack website here. I did not go pulling something out of Fox News or Breitbart or whatever. It's something along the lines of, USA Today, U.S. News, that those kinds of almost centrist-y sort of organizations, news organizations, anyways. And if we were to again, I'm gonna have to read this article sometime in my later time, but in setting up of this live stream, I did not fully have the time. But nonetheless, to be looking at the graph alone that is presented right here by taxfoundation.org, taxes on the rich were not much higher in the 1950s. Average effective tax rate on the top 1% of U.S. households. Now, I think what they're meaning by effective tax rate is what was actually paid into the system. And the amount that was paid in the 1950s is not too different from what is paid in more modern day. In the 1950s, the top 1% of U.S. households paid an average tax rate of 42%. In 2014, the top 1% of U.S. households paid an average tax rate of 36.4%. So, Yeah, I mean, in spite of people ending up paying more, rich people particularly, well, actually, in spite of them being like told that technically they're supposed to pay more, they did not actually end up paying more in the ultimatum of things, is what I'm getting from that. So it's not exactly the narrative of people were like taking this amount of money and yet the economy was still good, because one part of that argument is kind of flawed in that no, it wasn't quite that amount of money that was taken from these people. Therefore, in spite of that, the economy done well or whatever. But anyway, so it's not as objective as you're making it out to be, Progressive Voice. It's more murky than you're making it out to be.
So what does he do when he's flustered with facts in front of him? He has to create this straw man. Now, what is a marginal
What straw man? Again, you're not explaining the straw man very well.
tax rate, right? Because all tax rates were not 91% during World War II. The top marginal tax rate was 91%. What is a marginal tax rate? A marginal tax rate is a tax that is put on an amount of money after a certain amount of money is made. So, like, let's say the top marginal tax rate is.
You know what? I don't think Ben Shapiro was saying anything opposite of what you're saying right in that little segment right there. Throughout any of this debate, Sahil. So what are you going on about? Just wondering.
Whatever, 50%, and then it's money made after $5 million. If you make $5 million and $1, you will get $1 will be taxed at 50%, while all the other money is taxed at the previous bracket. So you would only get 50 cents out of that dollar over 5 million that you made, and the same thing would go on as you go forth. So I definitely advocate for something around a 50% top marginal tax rate.
Alright, so this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier in this live stream. This is the part of of Ben Shapiro's question that Sahil goes personally answering, in that he wants it to be like 50%. Whereas Cenk, he did not really answer the question to Ben of what he wants the rate to be. Not right then, anyways. Maybe Cenk Uygur answered it in some later video of his, but I digress.
Because recirculation is key to a very strong economy. What you need is consumers.
I don't think, you know what? This whole circulation or recirculation of money thing, that they're gonna go on about this talking point of Sahil is anyways, as well as Cenk in the video that Sahil is responding to. They're gonna go on about this, and it's not even technically a real term until now, like when this debate happened between Cenk and Ben, but the idea itself of money recirculating, nonetheless, I don't think Ben Shapiro was saying anything opposite, that an economy needs money to be circulating in order for it to remain healthy or whatever. Who has ever said anything opposite of that? I'm just wondering, because I don't know. I'm not going to outright accuse Sahil of strawmanning here, because I'm going to admit that it's possible that somebody would have said that you don't want money circulating around the economy. Some crackpot or whatever. But nonetheless, who's saying that, Sahil? Who's saying opposite of what you're saying?
Having more money, because they're going to spend the money. So the way you keep an economy booming is not by having richer people keep the money. And, he goes on to say that, they put it in banks.
I find it funny because he goes saying he goes I don't know, he almost seems closer to strawmanning Ben than Ben is to strawmanning Cenk. Here, let's re-listen to that.
They're going to spend the money. So the way you keep an economy booming is not by having richer people keep the money. And he goes
When has he ever said that throughout this video? That the way that you boom an economy is that rich people just keep their money. Well, he thinks that rich people should keep their money away from the government for themselves so that they can decide on whatever they want to use their money for. I mean, sure, yeah. He says don't have the government take it, but he doesn't think that rich people should just be stowing away all the money in some secret vault, never ever to be touched or used at all. I mean, And you know, it's funny that Sahil goes saying this point, and yet later he goes talking about trickle-down economics, you know, saying that Ben was supposedly defending that, which I'm not fully sure about that. I mean, I don't remember the full context of everything that's being said around this point. It's been a while since I listened to the debate, but from what I remember, I still retain that Cenk was praising higher tax rates, and therefore our economy was doing good back in the 50s and whatnot. But ultimately, the whole point, what am I saying? The whole point about trickle-down economics anyways, and I'm not fully defending trickle-down economics, but the idea of trickle-down economics is that you let rich people keep more of their money so that they can spend it, and that money that they go spending or using to spend and buy these different kinds of items, it'll end up in poor people's hands when they go buying a new yacht or whatever. That's the idea, from what I understand anyways, of trickle-down economics. Ben Shapiro, or excuse me, Sahil goes saying this thing right here at this point of the video, you know, responding to sort of a straw man that he's made of Ben, saying, you know, rich people just keep their money and basically don't use it. But then he goes later saying that Ben Shapiro goes defending and mentioning trickle-down economics. So, which one is it? Is Ben Shapiro saying that rich people need to keep their money for themselves for, you know, the long term of things? Or is he saying that they should not be taxed out of it so that they can go ahead and spend their own money, you know, on their own volition? Just wondering, Sahil.
Goes on to say that, you know, they put it in banks so people can loan it out to people. Well, clearly it doesn't have nearly as good an actual.
You know, he did not play the clip of when that Ben says that, so I don't know. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know for certain.
Truly a poor effect on the economy, because when you can have people who are consumers who are actually spending the money, it far more benefits the economy than some rich people keeping their money in the bank or, you know, wherever.
Or keeping their money away from the government is what Ben's main point is.
The fuck they keep it, and the economy starts to slow down and it starts to become a boom and bust. Also, I'd like to say, you know, the glory.
And I'm just gonna say, even if it's not really Ben's main point, I'm going to say that it's my main point in regards of taxes. I do not care in the principle and efficacy of things, of what people do with their money after they're allowed to keep it, you know, not be taken away by the government. Like, I don't care if a person is going to keep their money in a bank or keep it in a underneath a mattress or use it to spend on other goodies and whatnot. What I care about is that they keep it away from the government, or able to keep it away from the government. That, me personally anyways.
Of a mixed economy is not a 91% or 100% tax rate. All Cenk is advocating for is, number one, a higher marginal tax rate. Starts to slow down and it starts to become a boom and bust. Also, I'd like to say, you know, the glories of a mixed economy is not a 91% or 100% tax rate. All Cenk is advocating for is, number one, a higher marginal tax rate.
And what is that higher marginal tax rate? And again, Ben Shapiro was not saying that Cenk Uygur is... He's not saying that Cenk Uygur is advocating for a 91 or 100% tax rate. He's asking if that is his position or not. Like, you know, fucking projection. He's accusing Ben Shapiro of strawmanning, and yet he just strawman Ben Shapiro. Put words in his mouth. You're strawmanning a person by accusing them of strawmanning them, another person in some way, and when really that's not the case. Fucking projection, progressive voice. Congratulations.
And also, it is in response to the idea that high tax rates make the economy slower, which, again, is debunked and disproved by the only empirical data that we...
Now, I'm going to have a little bit more of a nuanced take. I will say that higher tax rates does not in of itself cause a slower economy. You can have... you can have an economy that is roaring and fast, and it still has a, at least by official government standards anyways, a higher tax rate. before all the loopholes and deductions and so forth. You can have that happen. But the question is, how much productivity is happening in the meantime while they're being taxed that? There's a whole lot more things contributing than just tax rates, just for the record, y'all.
We really look at there, we have the booms going on, the biggest boom we've seen.
And I'm just going to say, I don't think that Ben Shapiro, thinks that, I don't know. It's just, the whole debate, it was a little bit of a mess. I can at least agree and remember on that part that it was a bit of a mess, and that Ben Shapiro, I don't think, was able to fully flesh out the nuances of his different beliefs and whatnot. And he was being a little bit overly simplistic henceforth, but nonetheless, I'm just going on about peanuts.
In that time frame that we had those high taxes, and ever since we have never been able to reach that again. I mean, just watch the crowd booing Cenk on the idea of recirculation of money as if it's some kind of leftist theory and not a understood, well-studied economic idea and concept.
I don't think that was the case. I think it was of how that Cenk Uygur was using that as an excuse to be, raising everybody's taxes. Well, not everybody's taxes, but richer people's taxes more specifically.
Concept. If that doesn't make you know that the crowd is just totally biased and not open to thinking about anything, you're crazy.
Too much away from us. So, for example, the reason why when taxes are higher, it winds up being better for the economy is because it recirculates the money. So if you give it to the rich, this is hilarious. If you're uneducated, please at least don't make it obvious.
So I find it funny that he goes saying that there's one thing that the crowd goes to booing him about, and really, the crowd wasn't full-on booing him. There was a few people getting worked up, but the crowd did not really start getting worked up at Cenk until he started saying, "You're all uneducated." The reason that you said that they were booing him is not the reason why that they were booing him, Sahil, ultimately. It was because of Cenk basically insulting and picking fights with the audience. And hello, newcomer M in the live chat. Welcome to the show.
This is the most interesting conversation on taxes I've heard.
If you don't know the concept of recirculation of money, then go look it up.
All right, so what's his name? Matt Christensen actually did a video right after this debate was done, responding to all the things that Cenk was saying. And one of the things that he Googled up was recirculation of money, and he could not find anything but a quote from Cenk about recirculation of money. And really, he goes saying, go look it up. But really, there's not a whole lot to be read about the any official term of recirculation of money. It just seems that at best Cenk was using sloppy terminology to get his point through, or at worst was completely full of shit. Because here, look, while economic growth cannot be stimulated by no explanation of recirculation of money, currency recirculation policy, so it's not exactly what Cenk was talking about right there, but it's kind of close. I don't know, but anyway, Federal Reserve Bank Services. Recirculation policy frequently asked questions. Currency in circulation. Shapiro audience slam young Turk Cenk for advocating. That is talking about, where the quote seemed to have originated from, from Cenk's mouth. What is the quantity theory of money? Journey to circulation. How currency gets into circulation. European Payments Council to improve the efficiency of ... Why the local multiplier effect always counts. So, yeah, no, there's no official term of recirculation of money. So, again, he's at best sloppy with his words, at worst completely full of shit. Cenk is.
The problem with Keynesian economics is that it doesn't even work in theory, because again, once you go to the logical extreme, which is remove all of the money from the rich people who are saving all their money and give it to all the poor people to buy hamburgers, that doesn't help the economy or spur the economy. What spurs the economy is a higher level...
Right.
What we are advocating for is not for this massive amount of money, all of it to be taken away to redistribute for hamburgers.
That is not what Ben was saying either. He was not saying that you or Cenk or anyone else actually advocates for it. He was trying to make an argument that might have been a little bit of a hyperbolic argument, but he was still like taking the whole Keynesianism thing that Cenk was seemingly advocating for and saying if we were to take that to his logical extreme, you can see that it doesn't really work. At least not in the way that you want it to or expect it to, Cenk. I mean, that he was not saying ultimately that that's what Cenk wanted. I mean, really, Sahil? Really? Again, it seems that you're freaking projecting with this whole accusation of Ben Shapiro misrepresenting Cenk's, or it seems that you're projecting by saying that Ben Shapiro is misrepresenting Cenk's arguments. Wait, what? Oh, Blind Girl says you live. Did you mean to say you love my favorite Jew? And by the way, hello, Blind Girl in the chat, and hello, Red Feather as well. Yes, I have a big bit of respect for Ben Shapiro. There's a whole lot of things that I disagree with him on, like when it comes to some things about military interventionism, and some things about a Jewish state, like, you know, as far as a majority ethnicity and whatnot. But nonetheless, I'm not going to get so much in that. But ultimately, free market economics, a whole lot of libertarian-ish sort of beliefs when it comes to drugs and sexuality, and, you know, and guns, and being passionately against abortion. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that I sort of am behind Ben Shapiro on. And not to mention being principally consistent on how he criticizes Republicans. Ben is my hero, says Blind Girl. Oh, okay. Nice to hear. Anyway.
What it's doing is making it so that there aren't ultra rich and ultra poor. What you're going to then have is enough money to incentivize people to then go and start new businesses and do all that type of stuff, while also being able to help continue the economy by consumer buying and selling. Okay, Ben Shapiro goes after Keynesian economics here, which is basically a mix of both socialism and capitalism. And he says that it doesn't even work in theory, when the real reality of the case is that social democracies, they absolutely dominate the world when it comes to...
Do they now? And what are you defining as a social democracy? Is the question that I want to pose. Like, he's going to go further into it. Let's just let him finish his point.
When it comes to how economies are doing, and they're always booming every single year. Those are the most countries that do the best. And whether you like it or not, the truth is that the United States is very...
Okay, never mind. I thought he was going to explicitly mention Norway or Sweden, but let me bring, for example, because I have a pretty damn good feeling that Sahil, when he goes saying that social democracies, they do the best in the world, yada yada. Sweden and Norway, they don't even have a minimum wage. I mean, they strike like about the same as we do in economic freedom, and sometimes even a little bit higher anyways. Who is this you're reacting to? Asks Red Feather. It's the progressive voice. But anyway, what was I gonna say? I have a pretty damn good feeling that Sahil is like, when he goes praising social democracy, he's praising, or at least trying to praise, Norway and Sweden, even though they don't have a freaking minimum wage, and they have like freer markets and less regulations in some other ways. They have a more sophisticated welfare system than the United States does, which I think is the main thing that what Sahil and his ilk like to praise them for. But all the same, is it really a social democracy if you have a bigger welfare state, but at the same time a freer market than the United States? That doesn't really make much sense to me. But yeah, that's an issue that I'll have to tackle fully some other time. The free markets of Scandinavia versus the United States and so forth. But that's for another time. They're also smaller, says Blind Girl. Precisely, Blind Girl. So they end up having to put in less money into the welfare state to get people fully subsidized. Whereas the United States, we got so many freaking people, it ends up so freaking expensive and puts a strain on the overall economy and so forth. But, Mr. Merchant says that argumentum ad populum. Ben is fine until he shills for funding Israel and add his social conservatism BS to the mix. Well, he isn't that socially conservative, except for when it comes to abortion. At least not on the legal side of things. He's not that socially conservative. As far as shills for funding for Israel, like, again, one of the things that I have with Ben, like, if he advocates for sending like foreign aid to Israel, that would be another thing that I disagree with him on. I don't believe in foreign aid personally for any country. That includes, for the most part anyways, and generally speaking, our allies. I don't think there's anything more that I had to say right there. We're just going to continue. But yeah, all these little things that I say that I'm going to have to go deeper into at some later video or live stream or whatever. For right now, we're just responding to this video because there's some things I wanted to get off my chest for the longest time, and now I'm finally taking the opportunity to do it. Getting some things off my chest about Progressive Voices' response here to Ben Shapiro.
Very Keynesian in the way it works, you know. You have a ton of government intervention. You have things like the VA, you have Medicaid and Medicare, and you have...
Is that technically intervention into the economy? Well, it is in the area of taxation, and that, you know, government is like stepping into the market, into competition, and so forth by putting forth their own, you know, competitor into that appropriate industry. But it's not that interventionist in regards of regulating other people's business. Just saying.
Public schools, and just you could go on endless things, and this is just a complete lie. And I don't think I've ever seen some crowd eat up such BS so easily, because it's so clearly wrong by empirical data.
Eat up such BS so easily. You're one to speak, Progressive Voice.
Again, the key here being empirical data, not theory. And then he goes on to make a defense about trickle-down economics, and it was honestly just a sad right-wing talking point joke here, and Ben Shapiro is very wrong.
Alright, and I already responded to what he had to say about, you know, Ben Shapiro defending trickle-down economics a little bit earlier in the stream. If you want to hear that part of it, go watch the stream in full pretty much. But for right now, we're moving on to other subjects. Blind Girl also says they also don't incentivize single child households with free cash like a drug, right? Mr. Merchant says argumentum ad populum on the PV, for as most countries are social democracy or whatever he said earlier. Alright then, thanks for clarifying, Mr. Merchant. Anyway, moving on to the prime meat of the stream. Andrew Cuomo, apparently I had almost missed this story. Apparently he's being alleged to have sexually harassed some women or whatnot. And I think these 3 articles, definitely these 2 anyways, well, this one in particular, are in relation to that subject. And I think I haven't pre-read any of these articles, so I guess we'll just find out for ourselves. Actually, this article isn't talking about the whole MeToo stuff with Andrew Cuomo. It seems to be talking a little bit more about Cuomo's handling of the COVID situation. So we're not quite there yet, but anyway, let's get on to some Andrew Cuomo bashing. Byron York's Daily Memo: Why the Cuomo Case Drives Republicans Crazy. Welcome to Byron York's Daily Memo newsletter. Was this email forwarded to you? Sign up here to receive the newsletter. So Washington Examiner is like reposting Byron York's newsletter, I guess. Why the Cuomo case drives Republicans crazy. Things are looking worse by the hour for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Over the weekend, a 4th and then a 5th woman came forward. Okay, never mind. This does relate to the whole Me Too and sexual assault allegations, whatnot, or sexual harassment rather. And then a 5th woman came forward to accuse him of inappropriate behavior. At that point, Cuomo's support among top Democrats in New York began to crumble. Apparently, some were okay with 3 accusers, but not with 4 or 5. First, the leader of the New York State Senate, Andrea Stewart Cousins, demanded the governor's resignation. We need to govern without daily distraction. Stewart Cousins said, Governor Cuomo must resign. There's not a lot of ambiguity in the word must. Then the leader of the state assembly, Carl Heastie, suggested Cuomo should quit when he said the governor should seriously consider whether he can effectively meet the needs of the people of New York. In response, Cuomo said no. Actually, it's more like hell no. I'm not going to resign because of allegations, Cuomo said in response to Stewart Cousins and Heastie, who are, of course, both Democrats. There's no way I resign. And who is going to make him? It's unclear what kind of pressure would force Cuomo out. If he resists the conventional kind politicians of his own party calling on him to quit, then the legislature can remove him. New York's impeachment process is roughly similar to the impeachment process for the President of the United States laid out in the Constitution. But like a federal impeachment, removing Cuomo would be an arduous task. You know what? I'm taking off this mask and swigging my monster here. All right. So the question is whether Cuomo can do a Ralph Northam. Remember, he is the governor of Virginia who was mired in scandal when, in January 2019, a photo surfaced of him in blackface, referring to Northam, at a party years before, when he was in medical school. The calls for Northam's resignation were intense, but he just didn't do it. He just said no, and no one made him. Northam remains in office today. Yeah, just to sort of cut through the article a little bit more, it is frustrating, and I would understand as to why that Republicans and people on the right in general would get driven crazy by all this bullcrap. Because, leftists keep on calling for people to not be in political positions of power when there's sexual allegations at them, or at right-wingers, anyways, at right-wingers' expense. I mean, take Kavanaugh, for example. And trust me, I have a lot of problems with, or at least one problem in particular with Kavanaugh, but I don't think he deserved those sexual assault allegations when they were so frivolous and baseless and whatnot. But yet a bit of a double standard. Later, when somebody on the left, Andrew Cuomo, gets the same sort of shit, they don't go like an angry mob go calling for his resignation or whatever. At least not, actually, what am I talking about? You got Democratic politicians calling for it, but not any massive Twitter mobs, at least not that I heard anyway. So, Democratic politicians seem to be calling for his resignation, but not average Joe leftists seem to be paying much attention to this. Not that I've been seeing or hearing anyways. And just in general, yes, the Northam and Cuomo cases are different. For one thing, the politicians who would succeed Northam, Virginia's Democratic lieutenant governor and attorney general, were also beset by scandal, making Northam's departure less appealing to Democrats. In New York, the person who would succeed Cuomo, Democratic lieutenant governor Kathy Hochul, is scandal-free and ready to go. So it would actually be more politically palatable to Democrats to remove Cuomo than Northam. But so far, Cuomo is digging in. We'll see if that works. So I'm going to read up in the chat here a little bit more. Red Feather says, I'm surprised the Democrats are making a stand against Cuomo. They loved him before. Yeah, the politicians at least. I don't know. Maybe I was talking out of my ass a little bit earlier as far as how much vitriol the left is having at Cuomo. But nonetheless. Meanwhile, here's the thing that blows Republicans' minds. Cuomo might go down because of his MeToo problem and not because of his horrendous mishandling of the COVID crisis. Remember? Okay, so, yeah, that would make sense too as to why that Republicans would get driven crazy or get really frustrated to the point of craze. Remember that Cuomo presided over one of the worst outbreaks of coronavirus in the world. Lives were lost by the thousands. The problem is not just Cuomo's efforts to hide the number of nursing home COVID deaths after he had recklessly forced the homes to accept COVID patients, although that seems bad enough to force the governor to resign. It's also Cuomo's handling of the virus in the early days of the pandemic. In April 2020, the New York Times reported on the process by which Cuomo came to order a statewide lockdown. New York officials had been closely watching events in California. On March 19, California Governor Gavin Newsom ordered a lockdown. At that moment, California had 675 confirmed COVID cases according to the Times. Yeah, 675 confirmed cases. That was enough for you to start, arresting people just for going boating, for example, California. Fucking California. Blind Girl says, Dems aren't taking a stand on him. It's a fake out. Impeachment is a threat they can't fulfill. Fair enough. I mean, I will not deny that it's probably, or possibly, anyways, just a big show that they're putting on. But nonetheless. That same day, March 19, New York had more than 4,152 cases. The Times reported. Still, Cuomo resisted a shutdown. He dragged his feet. There was an overnight debate with top aides. Finally, the next day, Cuomo ordered the shutdown. By that point, March 20th, New York had more than 7,000 confirmed cases, the Times said. The virus went on to ravage the state. Yeah, he did. He did wait a little bit longer than California did. Like, not that I'm saying that I actually would have wanted Cuomo to shut down his state at 7,000 or whatever number of confirmed cases, but going off of by Democratic logic, yeah, it seems rather careless on Cuomo's part. My own logic would be let's not forcefully shut down businesses because, everybody has a right to feed themselves without being so reliant on the teat of the government welfare state via stimulus checks or whatever else methods of support that you can think of. Together with New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, the two were often at each other's throats. Cuomo tragically mismanaged the COVID outbreak. Today, according to the website Worldometers, New York has suffered 2,497 deaths per million population, while California has suffered 1,372 deaths per million. The toll has been terrible around the country, but as far as states are concerned, only New Jersey's death toll, 2,654 per million, is worse than Cuomo's New York. Wow, why is it that New Jersey is not getting as much coverage as New York or California, or even Michigan for that matter, as far as shitty states suffering, or as far as shitty governors handling, or rather mishandling, the outbreak? Blind Girl also says, if they impeach him, other Dem names will rise in the cover-up. So, empty threat. Death count for lockdowns versus not lockdown are almost the same, proving lockdowns were bogus hope. Indeed, Blind Girl. But Cuomo bragged about what a great job he did, and Democrats and their allies in the media celebrated him as a model of how to fight the virus. It's just funny, the hindsight of it all. He's such a great and upstanding model of how to fight the virus, and yet so many months later, a bunch of old fogies died because of his mishandling of fighting the virus. Making Cuomo a hero while they trashed then President Donald Trump day after day. In an act of chutzpah. Is that how you pronounce that word? Chutzpah. Chutzpah. In an act of chutzpah difficult to fathom even today, in mid-pandemic, Cuomo wrote a book about his success in handling the virus. What the fuck? How big is your fucking ego, Cuomo? You're going to write a book before the situation that you're making the book about was even handled, was even resolved? Holy shit, Batman. American Crisis. Leadership lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic. Then Cuomo received an international Emmy for his masterful briefings on the virus. Talk about putting the cart before the horse, y'all. And then came the nursing home revelations. Last week, the Times... okay, yeah, we gave you this Emmy now we're gonna try to ask for it back because all these people died under your watch. No, but I earned this, Emmy. No. All these people died. No, you don't get it. Anyway. Last week the Times published a story, and then came the nursing home revelations. Last week the Times published a story headlined "Cuomo aides rewrote nursing home report to hide higher death toll." That be coming from the New York fucking Times. The people that were so damn sympathetic towards the lockdowns and so pessimistic about the virus itself to where that the lockdowns were justified. Thousands of New Yorkers whose loved ones died in the pandemic wondered if Cuomo had told the truth about the circumstances of the deaths. He hadn't. Cuomo's COVID disaster was a matter of life and death. Nothing could be more serious. And yet, it was apparently not enough for New York Democrats to call for his resignation until the MeToo allegations began. Now he must go. Some Democrats say, yes, the MeToo allegations are a serious matter, if they can be proven anyways, but we're going to save that for next article, probably. Still, the situation has left some Republicans understandably baffled about political priorities in New York State. For a deeper dive into many of the topics covered in the Daily Memo, please listen to blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, it's just a ending annotation of the article. That's the end of it anyways. But yeah, leftists seem so prioritized on this whole social justice-y sort of shit. Kick a guy out for Me Too allegations, but don't kick him out for mishandling, or we're going to just ignore the mishandling of the coronavirus thing because we don't find that worth kicking him out because reasons. This is also from Washington Examiner. Here's who has accused Cuomo of sexual harassment amid growing resignation calls. All right. So let's see of how much these allegations hold water. At least I'll give my opinion on it anyways. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing allegations from 7 women who say the governor acted inappropriately toward them. On Friday, a 7th came forward accusing Cuomo of unwanted touching while she covered him as a reporter in the state capital of Albany. Cuomo, 63, has denied all accusations of inappropriate touching, though he has apologized for making people feel uncomfortable. The Democratic governor also remains adamant that he would not resign over the allegations. New York State Attorney General Letitia James is leading an independent investigation into the claims. I got a question. Are you going to bring forth quotes of the allegations and whatnot, or do we even know what their stories are yet? And thus, you go saying we're going to lead an independent investigation. On Thursday, the New York State Assembly approved an impeachment investigation as the governor faces mounting calls to resign. So far, Lindsey Boylan, Charlotte Bennett, Anna Ruch, how do you pronounce that, Karen Hinton, and Anna Liss, most of whom worked closely with Cuomo in some capacity, have accused the governor of sexual harassment. The 6th woman, reported to be a member of the executive chamber staff, remains unidentified. That's not helpful at all. Just saying. The Albany reporter Jessica Bateman said she was 25 years old and starting her journalism career when she was covering the Cuomo administration several years ago. Here are the details of the allegations brought forth against Cuomo. All right, here we go. Lindsey Boylan, the 36-year-old former Cuomo aide, was the first to come forward in December alleging the governor sexually harassed her for years. And you just now care to come out with them? Like, in defense of the guy, you're not making yourself look good when you go saying that you let this shit happen for years and you never said anything about it. Till now. In a tweet, Boylan said she never knew what she would be grilled on when she arrived to work, whether it would be her performance or her looks. Governor Andrew Cuomo has created a culture within his administration where sexual harassment and bullying is so pervasive that it is not only condoned but expected, Boylan wrote in an essay posted on Medium last month. Okay, it seems that so far that's mostly verbal sort of things, which I will agree, I will admit that it's not as bad as, if proven true anyways. Big fat if, by the way. It would not be as bad as Kavanaugh raping a girl, but anyway. In early March, she called for Cuomo's resignation, referring to him as a disgusting monster. Borland worked for the Cuomo administration from March 2015 to October 2018, including as Deputy Secretary for Economic Development. She is currently a candidate for Manhattan Borough President. My first experience of workplace sexual harassment was when my mom got her first real office job after graduating from college when I was in high school. I'm reading a tweet by Lindsay Boylan, by the way, y'all. She was so excited to be taken seriously. Her boss, I think he meant to typo, isolated her and kissed her. She never had that type of job again. All right. So, Charlotte Bennett, the 25-year-old who worked as a former health policy advisor to the governor, said Cuomo asked her a series of intimate and inappropriate questions about her personal life, alleging it was an attempt to seduce her. Among the questions, Bennett said the governor asked whether she was in a monogamous relationship and if she had sex with older men. Inappropriate, but is it really worth, resigning? Cuomo apologized, saying he never meant to make anyone feel uncomfortable and denying he ever touched anyone inappropriately. During an interview with CBS News, Bennett said she would not accept the governor's apology, calling for him to resign. It's not an apology. It's not an issue of my feelings. It's an issue of his actions, Bennett said. The fact is that he was sexually harassing me, and he has not apologized for sexually harassing me, and he can't even use my name. Shouldn't have happened. Probably shouldn't have happened. But nonetheless, is it really worth resignation? I don't know. Blind Girl says, I have to say kudos to Fredo, man, for daring them to impeach him, knowing those that are calling for it could be implicated. Big balls on that one. Sorry, Fredo, brother. Red Feather says, yep, they didn't seem to care until the essay allegations came forth. Oh, sexual assault allegations. Okay. So, Anna Rutsch is the next testimony to be read here on the article. Rutsch, 33, is a former member of the Obama administration and the 2020 Biden campaign. Unlike Cuomo's other accusers, Rutsch never directly worked under Cuomo or for the state of New York. Rutsch alleged that the governor put his hands on her bare back at a wedding reception in New York City in 2019. When she moved his hands, Cuomo allegedly called her aggressive and placed his hands on her face and asked to kiss her. I was so confused and shocked and embarrassed, Rutsch told the New York Times. Awkward. Breaking. A third woman has accused Cuomo of over-the-line behavior. Incredibly, a photographer caught the moment and this look on her face. Okay. I meant to just pull up the picture, but I guess we're pulling up the full-on tweet. Look at that. That is pretty creepy. She looks creeped out, and he looks creepy. Why, Cuomo? This is worse than Biden sniffing. I'm just gonna be full in front with y'all. This is worse than Biden sniffing. Blind Girl says, I wanted to make you say big balls. I'm a child. What's next? You want me to sing AC/DC to you, Blind Girl? I got big balls. He's got big balls. Oh, man. Stupid song, in my opinion. That's the stupidest song that I've heard in classic rock, and definitely the stupidest song that I've ever heard from AC/DC. But then again, that song is probably like a fair contender against Aerosmith's 12-inch. Eesh. Getting a little bit crude here. Blind Girl says yes. No. Red Feather says, I have to edit myself or YouTube deletes me. Right? Karen Hinton. Oh, y'all. We have a literal Karen here, y'all. No. Jokes aside, though, Hinton, a 62-year-old former press staffer, accused Cuomo of grabbing her and summoning her to his hotel room during a work event in 2000, when the governor worked with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Cuomo's office denied her allegation, calling the encounter made up. This did not happen, Peter Ajamian, Cuomo's director of communications, told the Washington Post. Karen Hinton is a known antagonist of the governor's, who is attempting to take advantage of this moment to score cheap points with made-up allegations from 21 years ago. All women have the right to come forward and tell their story. However, it's also the responsibility of the press to consider self-motivation. This is reckless. Red Feather says, LOL, DarkCon, I never heard you sing. Well, that wasn't me actually trying to sing. That was just me putting on my best, what's his name? Brian Johnson? I think it's Brian Johnson. My best Brian Johnson impersonation with that stupid song. I'm just gonna say it. AC/DC's Big Balls, that ain't real singing. Blind Girl says, we've got the biggest balls of them all. Mr. Merchant says, this is definitely gonna beat an S-Man's next YouTube poop. Oh, God. It was an epic song you sang, says Blind Girl. Oh, brother. Anna Liss, 35, is a former policy advisor for Cuomo who alleged the governor asked her if she had a boyfriend, kissed her hand, and called her sweetheart between 2013 and 2015. Really? Really? You're gonna make me defend Andrew Cuomo right here. Really, nigga? Seriously? Like, come on. This is like what people did back in the colonial days, for crying out loud. Kissing a woman on her hand. It's no big deal. It's not worth somebody resigning. Now, if they keep on doing it, when you keep on insisting that they don't do it, well then, yeah, I guess it gets more and more worse as you go along. But still, if, like, you do a first-time greeting of a woman and you just, like, go up and, like, kiss her hand or whatever, is it really that big a deal? I'm confused. Sixth accuser, this being the anonymous one. Earlier this week, a sixth woman came forward accusing the governor of inappropriately touching her late last year during an encounter at the governor's mansion where she was summoned to do work, according to the Times Union. The woman, whose identity has not been revealed, is reported to be a member in the executive chamber. The complaint was reported to the governor's council by other chamber employees and was relayed by Cuomo's office to James's office. Okay, I was just seeing if there was anybody that joined my call, but maybe not. Jessica Bakeman. Bakeman wrote in a piece for New York Magazine on Friday that the embattled Democratic governor sexually harassed her multiple times since her career began in 2012 and as a 25-year-old working for what is now Politico New York. In an essay, Bakeman said there were numerous times when Cuomo touched her inappropriately, gripping her wrist tightly or grabbing her shoulders at events. Bakeman also alleges Cuomo had sexist tendencies toward her, saying the governor never let me forget I was a woman. He wanted me to know that he could take my dignity away at any moment with an inappropriate comment or a hand on my waist, Bakeman said. Bakeman now works for an NPR affiliate in Florida. Now, okay, when I got hearing about these allegations, I was thinking that this was going into the area of freaking rape or even like full-on pussy grabbing or something like that. But this ain't it, Chief. This ain't it. This is just like brief touching or inappropriate comments. Now, what would I do if I was in freaking Andrew Cuomo's position? Oh, and also, we have to keep in mind that the guy is Italian. There's a little bit of a cultural difference between Italians and Americans. Italians, they'll like kiss each other on the cheeks as a sort of general greeting, even though here in America, if two people do it, we go thinking in our heads, oh, they must love each other or something. Whereas Italians, they do not see just a brief kiss to be that fucking, to be that fucking sexual in nature or whatever. But anyway, what would I do if I was in Cuomo's position? I would certainly not do it again. And would I consider it worth resigning? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how much in the balance do I think that the state of my state is in. Now, I think that Cuomo is a shitty-ass governor even outside of these allegations, and so therefore, on that alone, if I'd lived in New York, I would not be voting for him. I'd be doing my best to vote and campaign his ass out. But going by his logic, if I was to be of the belief of a Democrat that, oh, we need to continue the lockdowns because coronavirus is so that freaking dangerous, yeah, and so therefore we cannot afford to be losing these people that hold these particular positions of power, blah blah blah, it's too dangerous of a precedent if we lose them. Well, then I probably would not be resigning under that that scenario. But if there was an alternative to take my position, if I was in Cuomo's shoes again, if there was a very viable replacement who had roughly the same beliefs as me and was very well likely to win governorship, well then at that point I would probably go ahead and resign just because of this stuff. Just because it's bad PR in general. To be, touching people inappropriately without their permission, to be making such lewd comments and whatnot. But worthy of resignation? Not fully there. Now, if he full-on raped somebody or grabbed somebody by the genitalia, well then, yeah, I'd say so, yep. Resign. Maybe even impeach. It's pretty much, not so much rape, I guess. It is rape in the area if you get into penetration, and I know that I'm getting a bit lewd in this stream right here, but in the area of genitalia grabbing, it's not technically rape, but it is still sexually assault, and I would say that point, equally speaking to actual rape, it's worthy of resigning or even full-on impeachment. Blind Girl says maybe she's a germaphobe. Maybe. I mean, in this day and age, with the coronavirus going around, a lot of people are germaphobes. Red Feather says, I'm guessing the women, plural, never told him to stop because they thought they'd lose their job. Possibly. Blind Girl says she's being oppressed with his mouth fluids. Don't you care how she feels? In the grand scheme of things, do I care about her feels? Do I think her feels weigh that heavily as far as my opinion goes of Andrew Cuomo? Not really. I'm still as much against him being governor right now, hearing the cases being made, as I was before hearing the cases being made. Just to put it that way. Although the whole thing of how they feel or whatnot, it's still ammunition to be fighting against the left's narratives when it comes to MeToo stuff and, just in feminism and patriarchy sort of related stuff. But anyway. Blind Girl asks, how dare you forget you're a woman? Grow a peen? What the heck? I think she might be chatting with Red Feather there. I don't know. Oh, Red Feather says, hashtag spit on me too. You want to be spat on, Red Feather? No. Well, why would I do that? Okay, what Cuomo says. Cuomo has faced calls to resign from Republicans and Democrats. He first assumed office in 2011. The governor has denied ever inappropriately touching anyone and apologized if he made remarks that made people feel uncomfortable. I want New Yorkers to hear from me directly on this. First, I fully support a woman's right to come forward, Cuomo said on March 3rd. And I think it should be encouraged in every way. I now understand that I acted in a way that made people uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly apologize for how I feel awful about it. And frankly, I am embarrassed by it. And it's not easy to say, but that's the truth. But this is what I want you to know, and I want you to know this from me directly. The governor reiterated that he will not resign despite mounting pressure from Democrats on a conference call with reporters on Friday. I'm not going to resign, he added, saying he was not elected by politicians but by the people. In recent days, House Democrats from New York's congressional delegation have increasingly called on the governor to resign, with Representatives Kathleen Rice, Jamal Bowman, Yvette Clarke, Antonio Delgado, Adriano Espaillat, Espilet, I think that's how you pronounce it. Brian Higgins, Mondaire Jones, Carolyn Maloney, Grace Meng, Jerry Nadler, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, and Nydia Velasquez, all releasing statements urging him to step down. End of article. Red Feather says, LOL, I'm just kidding. All right. So, final article of the day, folks. This is also from Washington Examiner. Cuomo ignores pressure from congressional Democrats to resign, which I don't know if we need to go. I don't know. Maybe there's some interesting bit of information and extra bit of context that has to be offered in this article as opposed to the other articles that we read. So, for just shits and giggles, and because I already have it pulled up, we're gonna go ahead and read it, even though it might be seeming a little bit redundant. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo on Friday ignored strong pressure from Democrats to resign as he becomes engulfed in sexual harassment allegations and a scandal related to his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. I did not do what has been alleged, period. Well, you certainly have lied about the whole bullshit about nursing homes, Cuomo, so fuck you. Cuomo said in a conference call with reporters, adding that demands for him to resign are motivated by political animus, not factual evidence. This is coming from your own administration, dude! That you were covering up the numbers originally in regards of elderly folk death in the freaking nursing homes. Don't give us this bullshit. Got a Discord link? Asks Blind Girl. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and give it an invite in the general live chat right now, since you asked. I think this server can use a few article that was shared in my server, but yeah, I think it's about time to put forth give a little bit more activity into my server. Oh my God, you are the male me, says Blind Girl. Okay. Thanks, Blind Girl. Anyway, there's the link for anybody in the live chat watching right now who has not joined the server as of yet, and whoever's interested. All right. And hopefully none of the moderators will feel the urge to want to kick any of y'all out, because I do know that there was a raid. That there was a server raid being done by done in one of the other servers that I was in, and in relation to that, one of my moderators on my Discord server thought that one of the people that randomly joined my server was in relation to that raid that happened on the other server, so therefore he kicked him out. Hopefully this won't happen right now. Alright. But anyway. I'm not going to resign, he added, saying he was not elected by the politicians, but by the people. Cuomo made his announcement after a contingent of congressional Democrats, including Representative Jerry Nadler and AOC, on Friday demanded that he step down. More than half of all New York lawmakers have called for the governor to step aside. You know what? Even though that I think that it is kind of flimsy reasoning that the Democrats are saying that he should step down, or even just a vague, blind virtue signaling, or petty virtue signaling, I still think that this goes to show some pretty clear evidence that, what am I trying to say? That Cuomo might damn well lose re-election if he was to try to run again anyways for governor. So, interesting. Red Feather says, I didn't even notice because I'm not usually on there. Yeah, alright. Well, it's not my server. It's not my server that blind virtue signals asks blind oh, blind virtue signals? Sir, I'm offended. Right, how dare I mock the visually impaired? But Red Feather, just to clarify, it wasn't my server that got raided. It was Incredible Aspie's server, actually, that got raided. And then Brandon suspected that maybe somebody from that raid gone over trying to raid my server, and so therefore he immediately kicked him out. But anyway. After 2 counts of sexual assault, 4 counts of harassment, the Attorney General's investigation finding the governor's admin hid nursing home data from the legislature and public. We agree with the 55-plus members of the New York State Legislature that the governor must resign, Ocasio-Cortez said in a statement. Blind girl asks, he autism too? Aspie. Yeah, he is. He is retarded. He is a self-admitted retard. No. Yeah, he has Asperger's. Aspie does. That's why he calls himself the Incredible Aspie. By the way, I'm not calling him a retard as in I'm calling him stupid. I'm not using that as to insult him or whatever. But anyway, Red Feather says, if he loses re-election, he'll have Dominion on his side. Oh, okay. You're talking about Dominion as in voting machines, right, Red Feather? Right. Anyway. Cuomo has repeatedly insisted that he will not resign and has denied inappropriate behavior. An aide before his Friday press conference stated that the meeting was only a normal COVID briefing call. Cuomo's fall from grace comes about a year after he became one of the most popular figures early in the pandemic, praised for his forceful leadership expressed in daily press briefings, which won him an International Emmy Founders Award. Which is bullshit, I must re-emphasize, like last article. But throughout 2020, reports dribbled out of Albany that Cuomo's office had covered up the death count in nursing homes to bolster his public image. Pressure for Cuomo to resign grew after a wave of sexual harassment claims. 6 women accused Cuomo of misdeeds, lewd comments, unwanted kisses, and inappropriate sexual advances. These claims triggered widespread denunciations from Democrats at both the state and national level. The FBI and the Biden Justice Department in February revealed that they were investigating Cuomo after an aide said the governor's office had intentionally altered the nursing home numbers to prevent the high death count from being used against us. Ouch. Ouch. Cuomo, during his press conference, repeatedly stressed that an opinion without facts is irresponsible, and that when state and federal investigations into his actions conclude, his decision not to resign would be vindicated. After the call, New York Assembly Minority Leader Will Barkley told the Washington Examiner that Cuomo has shown he is the last to recognize that his credibility is in question. The longer he remains in office, the more of a distraction he becomes from the critical state business we need to complete, Barkley said. End of article. So, yep, that's about it, folks. I'm just going to catch up here on the live chat a little bit, and then I'm going to end the night. Remove that first and then pull this up. I need to get a little bit more professional setting up with my OBS streaming so I can like click one single button on my keyboard here, have hotkeys as far as setup goes, because that whole thing of dragging browsers on my computer was tedious in of itself, but it also it looked sloppy for the camera here for all of you watching. But anyway, Red Feather says, "Aw, poor Aspie." Blind Girl says, "Hells yes, my son's autism." Oh, okay. Hotkeys are for nerds. Well, I am a nerd, Blind Girl, so ha. But anyway, Red Feather says, "LL, yes, the machines." Alright, that's the end of the live chat there. I think I'm going to leave this stream and enjoy the rest of my weekend with some video games and some family from Kansas City that is visiting here pretty soon. I may, or actually, no. I was about to say I may or may not have a hangout stream, but that's not happening on Sunday at all because I have a special party that's happening right then. I'm not going to say what that party is, but it is a very once-in-a-lifetime party, let me put it that way. So, no hangout stream on my secondary channel for Sunday. Maybe I'll have a gaming stream sometime within the weekend, be it tonight right after the stream, or tomorrow night, or sometime Sunday. I don't know. We'll just take it as we go, because I don't have any official schedule for my gaming streams. Just FYI. Thanks for the stream, says Red Feather. Not a problem. And by the way, again, Red Feather, check out the last few episodes of Strikeforce I had. I debated a Marxist. I responded to Burger Craig. And there was also the Elon Musk stream. That was the very last episode. That was a very fun episode. And yeah, some pretty good episodes of Strikeforce. You've been missing out, ma'am. What games, asks Blind Girl. I play primarily Overwatch on my computer, but sometimes I'll play World of Warcraft or StarCraft on streams. Bye everyone, take care. See you later, Red Feather. Yeah, I'll check them out. Thanks, Red Feather. Blind Girl asks, ever play with a blind girl? No, I have not. Tell me in Discord, by the way, Blind Girl, are you like literally blind, or do you just call yourself that for as part of your internet alias? But anyway, to sort of wrap things up, I am the Dark Conservatarian. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night. God bless.